Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CCA U2G show. We have a person in the military that's going to give us some advice on how to join the military. Sir, could you give us some advice on, or tell us about your experience in the boot camp process?
Yeah. So my name is Carlton, Carlton Rucker, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the military, been in the military for like 4 years. Um but you said tell some advice on boot camp or my experience.
Yeah, some advice on like how to get to boot camp and what was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, you gotta, obviously you gotta talk to a recruiter. And tell them, express your interest in joining the military. Um then they'll so you have to go through this whole process where you take the ASVAB, which is basically just a test that shows what you're like, what jobs would be good for you. I guess you could say. So the better you're doing on it, the more jobs that you have available to pick from. So yeah, once you do all that, you go through that whole process with your recruiter. They'll break it down for you. So long story short, once that happens and you choose your job, then you'll go to before you go to basic training, you'll go to MEPS, which is just the end processing point for the military. And this is where you do all like your medical paperwork. Make sure the basically just making sure that you're fit. You know what I'm saying, to join the military, like fit enough to join the military, that you're within weight standards, all that. You gotta do your vision test, hearing tests, all the basic, just medical stuff. Just looking at your records and whatnot, make sure you don't have any felonies, stuff like that. So you do all that. Once you pass that, then they'll ship you off to basic training. Um, and then basic training, at least for the army, it's different depending on which branch of the military you go to. But the army is 10 weeks. So this is like 4 years ago, so I'm trying to like remember the whole process. But essentially, like the first week, you're just in processing. They give you all obviously your military uniforms, your military gear. Um, they shave you bald and shit. During that week, you get your cat card, which is your military ID, basically. So you're literally just in processing, just like you do like anywhere else. You just in process. So that's pretty much the first week. The second week, um, I'm trying to remember what we did. Yeah, first week was in processing, which technically you're in basic training, but it hasn't really started yet. The second week was damn, it's like 4 years ago, bro. I'm trying to remember. Um, Basically, it's like three phases. So one phase was shooting, where they teach you how to shoot the M4. That was like during the middle. The first week, I think it was like we had to do like courses, like military training courses. So like climbing walls, climbing ladders, like rappelling down a wall, stuff like that. Just basic stuff to teach you how to be like a soldier. Um, and then yeah, like I said, the second phase was like teaching you how to shoot. And then the third phase, what did we do in the last phase? Um, I think that was damn, bro. I can't remember. It's been so long, but they teach you how to shoot, and then the last phase, I think it was just oh yeah, we did ruck. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So basically, you got a ruck um for like 15 miles, 20 miles. That's like the last portion of it, and that's just building your body up to be like physically prepared to do like soldier tasks. And rucking, if you don't know what it is basically you just got to like a backpack, like a big ass backpack, full of your military gear. So it weighs probably like 50, 60 pounds or whatever. And then you just have that on your back. And then you just got to walk for however long. So I think the last thing we did was like a 12 mile ruck. And then that was like the last portion of basic training. And then you graduate basic training, obviously, after that. And then you go to, they call it AIT in the Army. and that's when you do another 10 weeks or however long it depends on your job. And then that's them like, so now you're a soldier after basic training. Now you know how to be a soldier, you know how to shoot, you know how to do all the basic stuff a soldier needs to know. And then you go to AIT, which teaches you how to do your specific job that you chose. And then mine, so like for example, I'm a paralegal, so mine was 10 weeks long. So I had to be in class for basically for 10 weeks. And they had taught me the basics how to be a paralegal. And then from there, once you graduate AIT, and then they ship you off to your unit where you'll be doing your actual job.
Very nice. So during basic training, you spoke about the workout. How
Yeah.
important is it to focus on your diet, on the way they feed you? And can you talk about how they feed you and what they fed you during basic training in AIT school?
Well, essentially, I mean, all your meals are pretty much provided for you. They do have accommodations, so obviously, if you're Muslim, you know, you don't eat pork. You can tell that to them, or if you're vegetarian, whatever the case may be. So they can accommodate to you know whatever your diet is. But for the most part, all your meals in basic training and AIT are provided for you. So it's this they call it the defect, DDFAC defect, which is essentially just the cafeteria. Um, where you'll march like in basic training is very once you get to your units, like it's a lot different. Um, but in basic training specifically and AIT to a certain degree, like you have to march with your whole like group, or they call it like a battalion. You march with your whole battalion to the defect or to the cafeteria, and then whatever they're serving that day is essentially what you're eating. If that makes sense. So I mean, it could be anything like chicken rice, um, uh, yeah, just anything like that. Like they give you like healthy options though, if that makes sense. But you do that 3 times a day. Like you do that breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So.
Nice, nice. Can you talk about how the military influenced you positively and negatively compared to life before the military?
It definitely influenced. I feel like joining the military for me personally was probably one of the best choices I could have made. I feel like it made me a lot more disciplined. Um, I used to smoke weed before the military, so um, I stopped doing that obviously because you can't smoke weed in the military. So I do feel like that made me like more productive in general. Just not smoking weed anymore. Um, it gives you a sense of direction, I guess you could say, a sense of structure. Um, teaches you how to be your own man, essentially, be independent, stand on your own 2 feet in a sense. So I would say those are like the positive ways. It's helped me out, um, just to grow as a person, as a man, whatever. Negatively, uh, uh, I mean, so with my job, and I can't necessarily get into like specifics, but because I'm a paralegal, I see a lot of crazy shit. Like I'll just put it that way. I see a lot of crazy things. Like just working in the legal field, specifically in the military. So seeing stuff like child predators, pedophiles, shit like that. That I could do without. So I wouldn't say that it necessarily affected me or affects me in a negative way. It's just hard to see stuff like that so often, I guess you could say. So that would probably be like one of the negative things about the military for me personally. It's different for everybody, obviously, because everybody has different jobs. But for me personally,
How has the military affected your friend group, knowing that we are friends, and since you are in the military, you know, you're
yeah.
not in the United States, you're stationed in South Korea, and once before you was stationed in Washington. Could you discuss
Yeah.
like how it affected your relationship with your friends and family?
The military definitely can affect your relationships with your family, your friends. If you're married, if you have a spouse, it can definitely affect that as well. Um, if you so when you first come in, you don't necessarily get to choose where you get stationed at. I mean, they give you like options, but it's not guaranteed that you'll actually get those places. It's different once you actually get in and you re-enlist. Like after that, you can choose where you want to go. But when you first come in, you don't necessarily have a choice as much. Um, so yeah, just being away from home, being away from your family, um, it can definitely affect those relationships because obviously you can't see them as much. Military is very up tempo, meaning that it's always something to do. It's very busy. So, um, yeah, just taking time to make sure you call home, check up on your family, check up on your friends. It's always important to do to, keep those relationships.
So, since you're 4 years in the military, do you feel like it'll be difficult to transition back to civilian world after your contracts are up? And would it be difficult for you to find your friends again or reconnect that friendship group?
I don't think it necessarily be difficult. If you're speaking as far as work, my job is pretty much a civilian job. Even I'm in the military, but it's like a 9 to 5, just like a regular civilian job, essentially. So I don't think it would be much of a difference for me personally, transferring or like leaving the military, going to civilian world because my skills like directly transfer over. But for people who are infantrymen, for example, who all they do is shoot guns all day, and stuff like that, that doesn't necessarily transfer over the same way to the civilian world. So I guess it kind of just depends on the type of job that you do, if that makes sense. But as far as connecting with friends, think I don't think it'd be too hard to transition back. Because majority of my friends we still keep in contact. Even if it's not every day, we still talk every so often. So I think if I was to get out and then move back to Atlanta, I don't think it would be too hard for us to reconnect.
Very nice. So, how has the military allowed you to travel the world and view different cities if you are actually allowed to do that while you're.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean you know, like how often can you say you get to travel to a different country and get paid to do it at the same time? So that I feel like it's definitely like changed my whole perception of um I guess just different cultures and whatnot. Because really, coming to Korea, this is like my first time really like living outside of the U.S. essentially. So it kind of like it kind of gives you a different perspective on like what life is like in America versus like in a different country. So yeah, I mean, I love it to be honest. Um, yeah, obviously I don't, I'm not married. I don't have kids, so it's essentially just me. Taking care of myself, paying my own bills. Um, so with that, yeah, it's it's I never thought before I joined the military, I never thought I would be able to say that I've like lived in Korea for however long.
What age group do you believe the military is best for? Because you joined in around 25, 26. What age
Right.
group do you believe is best for the military starting out?
So most people think military, and even I thought this way before I joined. But I feel like a lot of people think military is like younger people, like 18 to like 22, 23, like college age. But once I got here, there's actually a lot of people who like are the same age as me, or even like older than me. Um, so the best age, I don't know. I'll say anywhere from 21 to like mid 30s. I would say. Um, but yeah, there actually there's like you said, I joined when I was 20. Well, I started the process when I was 25. When I went to basic, I had just turned 26. But there's a lot of people um who joined around the same time, or around the same age as I did, or like even like late 20s, early 30s. So even like all the people I hang out with now, like we're all like between the ages of like 28 and like 33. So there are a lot of people who join a little bit later, like who live in civilian world for a little while and then decide to join with them.
Nice. What are some good things that you did while you was in boot camp or your job that allowed you to receive promotions that you could give advice to others and share with others?
So well, I came in as a PFC, so and that's because I had like I went to college, I didn't like fully finish my degree, but I had enough credits to come in as a E3. Um, so there's that. But specifically in basic training, um, there are ways to get waivers. I didn't like necessarily get a waiver because I was already PFC, but for somebody who joins as an E1, there are ways to get waivers. And that's just essentially just showing up motivated every day. And just going like above and beyond essentially. So you can, I think you can get wavered all the way up until E4 if I'm not mistaken. Like while you're in basic training.
And this waiver
Actually,
is for what again?
or it might be E3. Um, I don't think you can get waivers to E4 until you get to your unit. But waiver just means that so there's certain like time requirements. Like you have to be in the military for a certain amount of time to hit a rank. But a couple months before that, a waiver is just like your commander saying like this guy or this woman is already ready to be the next rank. So instead of them waiting the full amount of time, they can promote early. So that's what a waiver is.
Okay, okay. And how important is having a positive attitude? Because Carlton, as long as I've known you, no matter what the
Mhm.
situation is, your attitude is always uplifting, positive, great vibe. How important is that in the military and for safety?
I say it's very important. Obviously, and I appreciate that by the way, but obviously everybody doesn't necessarily have. You'll meet a lot of people like not just in the military, just in life in general. Um, you'll meet a lot of people who are like I guess pessimistic is the word I'm looking for. But everybody, I think you know people don't necessarily like to be around people who are like always negative about things in life. Um, so I think just having a positive attitude just sets the tone that hey, like we all go through stuff. That's just life. But you're still gonna show up for the person next to you, the person on your left or your right. And it just makes the people around you like motivated and makes um it just looks good um as far as being promoted and things like that. So
So, can you tell us how important it is politics actually does influence the decision of the world and mindful it is to keep, you know, mind that, any change in the military can affect your daily life and the likelihood of you being in the military? Because I know we once or spoke about the beards and how black men are receiving waivers and President Donald
right,
Trump is signing documents to state that, everyone must shave their beard and how that could
right.
affect you.
Can you repeat the question one more time? My bad. It's kind of hard to hear.
Sorry about that. I was
Yeah, yeah,
asking how politics,
yeah.
your
What you
day to
say?
day
Oh,
life in the
politics.
military.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, politics. essentially directly affect. I mean, not necessarily your everyday life, but being in the military, you're technically your boss, your commander is the president of the United States. So with that being said, whoever is president at the time and whatever policies they decide to pass, um, essentially directly affect everybody who's in the military. For example, like we were speaking before about the whole shaving thing. So uh, being a black man, and not all black men have it, but there's a medical condition that essentially is razor bumps. So essentially shaving every day, because that's like the military standard. That's their definition of being looking professional. But shaving every day can cause razor bumps specifically for black men, because of the way our hair grows. It doesn't grow straight. It's typically curly, thick. So it's just coarse. It's just the way just genetics, the way our hair grows. So um, I think it's just statistic like so they used to have this thing called shaving waivers in the military, where because of this they would let um essentially they would let you grow your hair out, your facial hair to a certain length to avoid razor bumps, because that's essentially the only way that you don't get them. It's just you don't shave every day. But because of our current political climate, like with our current president, they passed um, I guess a regulation that says they're getting rid of shaving waivers. So this affects a certain demographic of people um, disproportionately compared to others, right? So that can definitely have an effect on certain people.
Very nice. And last question: how has since you've been in the war for years, I mean, in the military for 4 years, how has the war affected you? Since you're in South Korea and you could be called to the war at any moment, how serious is that?
It's very serious. I'm not, like you said, I'm in South Korea, so I'm not like directly involved in the war, per se. But my unit can be called to war at any time if the president um, decides to make that call. So yeah, we have to be prepared. Essentially, even right now we have bags that are packed like with our military gear. So basically, you're supposed to be ready at all times. Being in the military, that's just any time, whether we're at war or not. But because of this whole Iran situation, we have bags that are packed. So if we get a call right now, for example, we have to leave within like 2 hours. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of. Do I think it will happen to us directly with South Korea? No, not unless North Korea gets involved in some way. So I don't think we necessarily have to worry about that. But it is a possibility. Never say never. I guess you could say. But I also do know people who are in the Middle East right now. So obviously, like you said, I've been in for 4 years, so you meet a lot of people. So I've met people who were in Washington and they PCS, which just means they went to a different duty station to like North Carolina. And North Carolina did get deployed to the Middle East. So even though I'm not directly in the war itself, I do know people that are over there. So that's just kind of like a different aspect of it.
Hey, okay, appreciate that, Mr. Rucker.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say to the viewers that will come out in their journey?
Yeah, I mean, I say don't be afraid to join the military. It's not like how it is, like it's not what you think it is, like in the movies. It's not all just war. Um, it's not like Call of Duty necessarily. I mean, I guess it can be if you're like special forces or if you're like on the front lines as an infantryman. But military has a lot more to offer than that. And it has a lot of benefits to that you can gain. Like for example, they pay for your college. You get the GI Bill. You get the VA loan. So there's a lot of benefits to joining the military. So at the end of the day, you gotta do what's best for you. But I don't think don't let the war aspects of it, I guess, hinder your decision when it comes to joining the military.
Thank you for that. Well, everybody, that concludes our interview with a enlisted soldier of the United States Army. Thank you all for tuning in.